All right, now that we have made our dispersion picks in the 1DS tool, we're going to go ahead and move those dispersion picks into the Disper tool, which you see at the upper left of the screen. So the first thing we do is we double click on the Disper tool, and then let's rearrange the windows to show us everything at full scale, which is particularly easy on a PC. And so now we're ready to begin. We have the control window at the upper left. We have the velocity versus depth profile at the right. And we have the dispersion curves, velocity versus period or frequency at the lower left. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap on one of these red lines in the velocity model to the right. And that shows me that velocity model has this blue dispersion curve on the lower left. Now we're going to bring in our picks. We'll go to the File menu, and we're going to open a dispersion file. So now we've brought in the picks, and those are the red squares that are down here. So the first thing we notice is that the red squares are all well below the blue curve in the dispersion plot at the lower left. What that means is that the velocities in at the site at Minden Airport that EarthTech recorded, those are much less than the velocities in this BC boundary model that's open here on the right. So now what we'll do is we'll set all the velocities down quite a bit. So really you can see I'm taking all the velocities and dividing them by about 3. Now we're looking at a maximum velocity, and I do want to switch to feet. Set the velocity maximum in the control panel about 2,000. Then I should be able to see everything better. So after changing anything in the control panel, I hit the Enter key, and all the plots change. You can also do the Update Plots button. The next thing I notice is I got a lot of white space to the right of the red picks on the dispersion curve plot at the lower left. That means the maximum period is a bit too high. So I'm going to take the maximum period down. Let's try 0.2 and hit Enter, the Enter key. Now I'm wondering if I might be missing a couple of points. So I'll make it 0.25, hit the Enter key again. And okay, now I'm sure I'm not missing any points. So now we're going to proceed with this modeling procedure to fit the blue curve to the red picks. So I'll start at the top of the model, and I will lower the velocity at the top of the model to fit the picks that are at the left-hand side of the left-hand side of the dispersion curve. Another thing I might want to do to make sure I have enough resolution in my curves is take the period number of steps up to 100. So again, I enter 100 in that field and hit Enter. Okay, now let's talk a bit about the maximum depth. As a rule of thumb, you can take the length of the array and you can divide that by 2. So you take your recording array's length, and here we had 12 channels spaced at 8 meters. Which is a pretty standard setup especially for getting VS100, for the site hazard class rating. So that's a total array length of 88 meters, which is, you divide that in half, and that's a total array length of 44 meters. And that's about 150 feet. So our maximum depth is going to be about 150 feet. Now, one thing you might notice is that our dispersion curve, if we go from the picks on the left at high frequency, small period, up through the picks towards the right that are at longer periods and lower frequencies, they're going up in velocity. And you might notice that there's a little bit of the blue curve also going up in velocity, but it's way off to the right. What does that mean? That means that the increases in velocity are too deep. How do you fix that? Well, you grab the interface on the model to the right, and you drag it up. And then when you release it, you'll see the new fit. We have our basic modeling procedure. We move the velocities left and right to change the velocities of the 3 layers that we have. If we want to bring the blue curve to the left, then we want to move an interface up and make it shallower. And so now, let's see, I can try to fine tune it. So let's say I take this first interface, I move it slightly shallower, or maybe a bunch shallower. Okay, probably like that. Now I'm seeing that here in the middle of my picks, the blue curve a little bit undershoots the red picks, so I will increase the second layer's velocity just a bit. Okay, that didn't make too much difference. And maybe I need to decrease the deepest velocity by a bit. And maybe what this is really showing me is that I have to put more distance between the first and second interfaces. They're really at different depths. So I'm going to make this first interface really quite shallow, but it's going to be a small increase in velocity. And then I can now bring the second increase in velocity a little bit shallower and start to match the picks. Now this all will become a lot more familiar to you as you start to get more experience and you do go through the modeling procedure more often. So I want to move that back to try to fit these points a little bit better in the middle. Okay, maybe increase that intermediate velocity just a little bit. Okay. And then, the blue curve over here on the right-hand side is a little bit to the right of where I want it. So that means the second interface needs to come a little bit shallower. Now, you'll notice that the slope of the picks is a pretty good match for the slope of the blue model dispersion. And that means the velocity contrast is about right. Now, maybe I can make that match a little bit better if I reduce the velocity of the deepest layer. So I grab that deepest red, bring it down. That's maybe a little bit too much. Okay, maybe like that. And now drag that second interface up a bit and make it fit. Okay. So, that you can do, and you'll be able to do it in the field. It won't take you, even the first few times, much longer than it just took me here. And pretty soon you'll be able to get a model like this in about 5 minutes. And you go over to the File menu and you put Save Model File. And what you want here is not to be inside we want to be where all the rest of the data is. So I had to move up one level. And so this will be Minden 1 model, because this is a velocity versus depth model now, .txt. Okay, and that's That's all we need to remember, and we save that. And so now we can move out of the Disper tool and put together our final report.